This is Eric from Pack Hacker, and today we're going to be taking a look at the NOMATIC McKinnon Cube Pack, which I've been testing for the past 2 weeks. If you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe so we can continue making videos to help you travel smarter. Let's dive in. So kicking things off here, you can see we really have 2 parts of this pack, and we'll show you how it compresses and uncompresses later on. But this is how it looks when it is fully opened up and unpacked. The upper material here is really thin, and you can kind of hear the noise it makes. Kind of 90s wind panty, but it looks very nice, but it is very thin. So right now I just have some packing cubes and stuff in there, so it's nothing that's really pointy. But if you put something oblong shaped in this upper compartment here, you do kind of see it because this material is so thin. But this material is pretty durable for how thin it is. Like, it doesn't have any give to it, and it is pretty water resistant as well. So getting caught in the rain isn't a huge deal, but if it's pouring, you're going to want to head for cover because it is pretty thin. So after prolonged exposure to rain, you're going to get a little bit wet on the inside. The lower portion of the pack here is more of like a TPU-like material. It's a lot thicker, and it also has a lot of padding because this is the camera cube section of the pack. So inside here is where your expensive stuff's gonna go, so you want that extra padding, and you just wanna make sure that your camera stuff is safe more so than like your sweatshirt or whatever you stow up here. Switching over to the back here, you'll see that we have Duraflex buckle here. It's pretty small, but does the job. And then the shoulder straps connect with a Duraflex clip just here on the bottom. Pretty easy to get clipped and unclipped, and it has not come unclipped when I didn't want it to. So that's always something that scares me with these kind of clips. Like, I feel like I might bump it and it'll come unclipped, but that has not happened, which is great. Moving back to the other side, we have zoom zippers all over this pack, and some are water resistant zipper tracks and some aren't. The ones down here on the camera cube section, that is a water resistant zipper, and the one that when you fold this down and compress it, that is also a water resistant zipper track, but this main compartment, or I should say secondary compartment zipper here, is not. That's just a standard zipper track. So again, this upper part is pretty water resistant, but not completely because it doesn't have that waterproof zipper track or completely waterproof materials. So moving on to the harness system back here, I want to start with the back panel, because as you can see, for a packable backpack, it has more of a back panel than most that you'll see. It really does have quite a bit of padding and quite a bit of aeration as well, except for when you get to the top here. So the reason this exists is because this is the top flap of the camera cube. So when this packs out, or packs in I should say, this folds down and is the top portion of the camera cube. So that was a cool way for them to be able to have more of a back panel when you're carrying this, but it does feel a little bit weird if you have it fully packed, and like, because this stuff can very easily kind of push out. Like if you had it fully packed, and then you feel that on your back, which isn't terribly comfortable, but I think it's worth having all of this padding and aeration down here. But the shoulder straps here don't have really any padding. They do have the aeration here, and I'm not sure how well you can see that, but you can see through it. That's how thin these shoulder straps are. And there is, I guess, a smidge of padding here, but none that you can really feel while you're wearing this thing. And it is pretty tight up here at the top to where you can kind of feel it around your neck, but this is a packable bag, so we're kind of used to them skimping on the shoulder straps a little bit. As far as the sternum strap goes here, we went over the buckle, but it does attach on, it has like a little bit of a rail, but then also has different places where you can put the attachment point, which is nice for micro but not super micro adjustments. So when you put the pack on, you really can't see it from the side, but you can kind of feel the difference between that padded and aerated back panel and the top material. As I said, you can't really see it, but you can definitely feel it when you're wearing it, and it isn't really uncomfortable. You can just feel it. So if you have like a sensitive back, or like when you wear backpacks, you kind of like one flat surface, this is not really the pack for you. But I do find it fairly comfortable, especially if you don't have it completely stuffed full. Like as you'll see when we get inside, I do have a camera and Instax Mini in the camera cube section, and then have some packing cubes in the upper section. So this isn't totally packed out, so I'm pretty comfortable right now. But if you do pack this thing out, you start to feel it both in that light material section and then on these shoulder straps and up here where they come together as well. So moving inside this backpack, there are two different compartments to work with. There's the camera cube section and then the upper section that pops out of the top of the camera cube section. So because this is meant for photographers, I'm going to consider the camera cube section the main compartment and this upper section here the secondary compartment. So the first thing I think is important to note about this secondary compartment is that the zipper goes all the way around the top here and pretty much all the way down to where it can go to the side. And because there isn't very much structure going on, as you can see here, it's really leaning this way. It's almost like the Leaning Tower of Pisa here. But when you open this up, there's not much strength in this material, so everything in there can kind of just tumble out. I don't know if it's going to happen this time, but I think you'll be able to see what I mean when I do this. So I'm going to open this all the way up. So the bag fell over, but the stuff didn't fall out, but the bag did fall over. But if I open this top part here, you'll see that there's just no structure going on really at all with this bag. And I don't have very heavy stuff in here right now. I just have these two small packing cubes and then this larger packing cube. So if you do have heavier stuff in there, it's more likely to make that kind of just tumble out of the bag because there just isn't structure here. You can see how I can kind of roll that all up into my hand. But moving on to the inside of this pocket, there isn't much going on here, just a big open space, and we do have this one pocket here. I think it's important to note that this is actually the top flap of the camera cube, so if you were to pack this away, you just take everything and kind of shove it in there, and then it folds down like that. So we're not going to do that quite yet, but I think it's important to note because that means you have a more rigid backside of this pocket because this pocket is constructed from mesh. Let me get a good look at that here. So this side, things can kind of like push into the main compartment, but they're not going to push into your back, which I think is an awesome design, especially as far as comfort is concerned. And another great thing about this pocket is that if you were to stow something inside there, like you could put your passport in there or other documents in there, and if you were to compress this, so let's say you just stowed your passport in there and now we're putting all the goodies inside here and shoving everything in. And then we'll close that up. So now whatever you stowed in there, your passport or whatever, is basically kind of hidden in the top of the camera cube. So you know it's there, but nobody else necessarily does. I mean, if someone is going to take something out of your bag, they might take the camera cube, but it's just a nice little hiding place, and it also adds a little bit of weather protection for whatever it is you decide to sew in there. But as you saw when I did that, it was very easy to stow that away and just pretty quick to do as well, which I think is important aspect of that secondary pocket. So when you need it, you can have it quickly, and when you want to put it away, you can do so as well. So moving on to the camera cube section here, you can see, as we said earlier, there is a bit more padding on the sides here, and it does have a bit of a more water-resistant finish on the exterior. And you've also got these little straps on the bottom here that help with if it were to slip, because this material is a little bit slippery when it's wet, but the addition of these straps makes it so it doesn't slide as easy. And there also are two little loops here, which I haven't found to be all that useful, but you can put a carabiner on there if you want to. So moving into the inside of this camera cube, so you can see initially that this top section is pretty thick when you don't have the top section of the bag expanded. So that is a little bit, I don't want to say awkward, it's just a little bit weird, just takes some getting used to. And also it can kind of push into this main compartment here to make it harder to stack things on top of each other. But as you can see here, I just kind of have a small little camera kit here, nothing super exciting. I've just got a little film camera here and then my Instax Mini. But the way I have it divided up right now is it comes with this one long divider and then these two short little dividers. And these are well padded, like it's pretty densely padded, which I like. I don't really like those ones that are super, super flimsy because they're easier to do things with, but I don't feel like they're doing as much in the way of protecting your camera gear. You might find that this isn't very customizable for your liking, but you can buy extras or use your own if you want to, which I think is pretty important. But as you saw, I was able to fit this film camera and the Instax Mini with quite a bit of room to spare here. And if I wanted to, I could have put the Instax Mini up and down, but it would have been harder to close it with this top flap here. So there is quite a bit of room here. I do have This is a DSLR lens that I wanted to just have on hand to show you how, size-wise it would fit in here. I mean, that's taking up quite a bit of room, and I don't even know that you could fit this lens alongside a DSLR camera because it's just too big. So this is more tailored for a mirrorless setup because this is about the size of my Fuji X-T3. This is just a film camera that I've been using lately. So you could easily fit a mirrorless camera, like a small kit. Maybe you could put your camera with a lens, and then maybe a small to mid-range prime or zoom lens, and then you'd have room on the side for your accessories, your charger, or whatever. Or if you are using something like a film camera, you could throw your extra film, or if you have an Instax like I do, you could put some extra film in there as well, because you do have these little customizable dividers in here that make it easier to do stuff like that. But bigger DSLR kits are not going to do so well here. And I think something else that's semi-important to note is that you have more padding here when you have the upper part of the bag stuffed in here. So as you can see, as I said earlier, it's really, really thick. So that's offering all that extra padding on the top of this bag. But if you have this popped out, the padding isn't as thick, and that's going to be hard to really showcase to you. It does have padding here. It's just not nearly as thick as when there's all of this and then the extra top panel here. So I guess unless you have really heavy things inside this that could poke and hurt your camera, that's not the biggest deal, because you really want that extra protection when it is in cube mode and you're throwing this inside of a day pack or a travel backpack or something of that nature. But I didn't really have an issue with that, but it is something I noticed and was a little bit worried about initially. So there you have it, the NOMATIC McKinnon Cube Pack. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel. We'll see you in the next one.